With the latest BBC News for Northamptonshire, I'm Liz Jeeves. A consultant from Northampton General Hospital is hoping to use his year as president of a charity to raise take-up rates of the HPV vaccine. Girls have been offered the vaccine since 2008 to guard against cervical cancer. It was introduced for boys in 2019 because of a link between the virus and head and neck cancers. Radiology consultant Maz is president of this year of the Swallows Head and Neck Cancer Support Group.
HPV, we've all got it. It affects the lining of our body, so the skin, the lining of our throats and our genitals. The idea of having the vaccine, like any other vaccine, it helps protect us, and anyone who does get cancer, which is HPV related, as long as you've been a non-smoker or been a non-smoker for 10 years, you have a positive outcome. Treatment is more effective.
BBC Radio Northampton.
So since 2008, school girls aged 12 and 13 have been offered a vaccine against HPV, a virus that can cause cervical cancer. Since 2019, boys have been offered the jab too. That's because HPV is also linked with head and neck cancers in men. Here in Northamptonshire, up to August 2023, 70% of Year 10 boys, 74% of girls had received 2 doses of the vaccine, which is higher than the national average, but lower than you'd want it to be. And we've been speaking to a couple of people this morning. Mick Jackson, someone we know from the Northampton Ukulele Group. Nearly 2 years ago, he had treatment for throat cancer. His cancer was linked to HPV, and he came in earlier with the man who treated him, Maz, consultant radiologist at Northampton General.
When you're feeling poorly like that, you say, my glands are up. And my glands were up. Now, that's actually your lymph nodes. So it got through. I got through Christmas, flu symptoms disappeared, but the lump was still there. So went to the doctor, unfortunately got it caught in time. So I was diagnosed with a throat cancer at the back of the tongue. I can remember sitting in the oncology waiting room and looking around at everybody's faces and just fear on their faces, fear of the unknown. It is a dark time. And
so, Maz, for you, I mean, you're seeing all these people in this dark time, aren't you? So that must be quite, I don't know what it must be like when you're, meeting these people for the first time.
Yeah, so meeting these people for the first time, I always try my best to get my message across, and my message across to anyone who ever gets diagnosed with cancer is, please see it as a bump in the road in your journey in life. Unfortunately, for some people, cancer can take over life because of the symptoms they're getting, or if they've had surgery, because some head and neck cancers, unfortunately, they need surgery before they can have radiotherapy, and it can be disfiguring. However, there is a lot of support out there. You've got lots of healthcare professionals, you've got charities such as the Swallows to help, and reach out, look for help, and everyone is there to help you.
Yeah, and Maz is president of the Swallows for this year, so holding the national conference in Northampton later this year. So let's speak to Jane Bethay, who's Director of Public Health for Northamptonshire Council. Morning, Jane.
Morning, Annabel.
And I'm presuming you're kind of going to be with Maz and Mick in wanting more people to take up this vaccine, yeah?
100%, Annabella. And I'd just like to say it's so fantastic to hear this being talked about openly on the radio about why we do need to have more people to have the vaccine. We really want to make sure we cover as many people as possible. And as you mentioned in your piece earlier, we're not quite where we would like to be in terms of people having the vaccine. It's a really good opportunity to talk about that and talk about getting the vaccine.
So how does it work then? You guys go into schools, do you? Because it's year 10.
Yes. It is. Well, it's children aged 12 to 13. Okay. So I think one of the issues with HPV is it's still fairly new, particularly for boys. So I have boys in their 20s who didn't get this because they were not at the, it was prior to this coming in. And so I think we still have a bit of work to do to put sure people understand just how important this is. It's a jab in your arm. It's something that you shouldn't really get many side effects from. You might get a little bit of a sore arm, but actually the benefits of it are enormous. So when we think about cervical cancer, nearly all cervical cancers are thought to be due to the HPV virus, which is the human papillomavirus. It's a pesky virus, Annabel. It's extraordinarily common. All of us will come into contact with it at some point in our lives. Our bodies tend to clear it, but for some reason, for some people, it goes on to develop cancer, and that can include, as your listener said earlier, it can include cancers of the mouth and throat.
So if, for example, you mentioned you've got boys in their 20s, so they wouldn't have had it. So can they have it now? What's the deal?
Well, the schedule is, and what I would always say to your listeners is there's some amazing opportunities to get more information around this, particularly from the NHS. So www.nhs.uk always has great information available, and that site lays out who can have it and when you can have it. So children aged 12 to 13, as you've mentioned, will get it offered it via schools, and I would really recommend all parents. I'm a parent. We really want the best for our children. Please take that up. But there are also other people that can have the vaccine. So if you're a young woman under 25 and boys born after the 1st of September, but you missed it at school, you can either check with your school nurse if you're still in that setting or speak to your GP. But there's also some groups who are just more at risk. So, for example, people who are living with HIV are at greater risk. So there's on that website, there's some information of those groups who can get it. And I would really recommend that people have a look and get the vaccination. The other thing is when this first came in, the rationale for just giving it to girls in 2008 was about, we thought this would protect everybody. Now, the evidence that's generated since then is that actually we would protect even more people from more things if we also vaccinated boys. So it's quite a recent introduction that boys have the vaccine, but I would really recommend that people, parents particularly, when that offer comes up at school, please do take that offer up. If you want more information, there's lots of really good reputable information online, particularly by the NHS, but your school nurse or your GP can also give you the information you're looking for.
And Jane, can I just ask one final thing then? Because it strikes me that, when we talk about vaccines, some people have vaccine fatigue, don't they, after COVID?
Yes.
And that can't help you as Director of Public Health.
No, Annabel, and you and I have discussed this before, haven't we? Talked about MMR, didn't we, before Christmas? And I can never miss an opportunity to also say to everybody, please do also have your MMR. And there has definitely been nationally a decline in some areas of vaccine uptake since COVID. And I think that what I would say, and this is both me professionally, I'm bound to say this, but also as a parent, it is really important that we look at what the offer is. We make an informed choice about taking these vaccines, but we use the right information to make that choice. There's lots of good information out there. It's really important that people understand to get a vaccine at a level where everybody has it as a universal offer, it's gone through lots and lots of testing, and very, very strict rules apply to when you can introduce a vaccine. So please, people, I would really like people to be assured that this is not something that is just thrown out there because people think it's a good idea. There's a very strong, robust process that goes in place nationally that means that people can make a really good, informed decision based on really good scientific evidence.
Jane, thank you as always for your time. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Annabel.
Jane Bethay, then Director of Public Health for North Northamptonshire Council, on the importance of, this time around, the HPV vaccine.